वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की fateh. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sangat ji, for joining us today. The energy that's created when we come together to remember the divine is immense. And it's in this Sangat where we're truly inspired. And it's in this Sangat that we achieve our true potential. We learn to let go of those things that simply just do not matter. And those things that we have no control over. And in this Sangat, we have the support, the encouragement to cross over this sea of illusion, this Maya, and reconnect with our origin. Coming into this Sangat is a blessing. It's a preordained blessing that's to come and simply sit in the Sangat. And once we come into this Sangat, it's then for us to make sure that we make every single moment count. We're not wasting any of our opportunities that we're given. We're looking to ensure that we constantly create and develop our spiritual attributes and discard all that negativity in our life. This is the blessings of the Sangat. As the great saint Bhagat Kabir has informed us, Kabir sadhu ko milne jaiye, saath na lijai koi. Kabir ji says, when you go to the Sangat, when you go to meet the holy, do not take anyone with you. Do not take anyone else with you. Saath na lijai koi. And this used to confuse me quite a bit. What was Kabir ji trying to say here? What are they referring to? Simply they're saying, let go of that negativity in your life. Let go of those frustrations. Let go of those attachments, that inherent ego. Don't take them with you in the Sangat and simply sit there with them. Satna lijai koi. When we come to that Sangat, we need to approach it with that mindset in order to actually achieve any real change in our lives. And 3 things to focus on about how we actually change that mindset. Firstly, the Gurbani says, doesn't matter what we think about ourselves, we're not as nearly enough as important as we think we are. So that's the first thing that needs to change. The second thing that we need to develop is that spiritual attitude and mindset. So when we come into that Sangat, we have to realize that we have an attitude and a mindset that needs to be readjusted. And thirdly, the majority of what we think we know about spirituality is probably wrong, out of date, or just simply confused with all the different miscommunications that we've heard over time, or the things that we're processing for our own ego or our own ego-based intellect. So we need to let go of that as well. It's as if that we're writing lines upon lines upon lines on a manuscript that's already filled with lines. So before we come into the Sangat, as we're coming into the Sangat, when we're meditating, when we're serving, we're simply wiping that slate clean first before we can actually imprint and before we can actually take on any new attributes and bring that meaningful change in our life. But there's a fabulous way, Sangat ji, a beautiful way to work this all out of our system. Simply attach yourself to that Sangat. Those souls that have already been successful in their union with the divine, the ones who have pleased the divine, those that we call the brides of the divine. And when you find them, completely subsume yourself, merge yourself in their identity, and then walk forward with them wherever they go. Because just in 1 second of their presence, in the presence of that true preordained soul, that blessed Sangat, can completely change our destiny, completely change it. As the 5th Guru, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, has told us, that 1 second in the Sangat is equated to countless paradises. Some of us are in search of paradise, in search of this liberation, but 1 second in the Sangat is equivalent to thousands of these. Ek palak sukh saad samagam, kot vaikunthe paye. Not just one heaven, but countless. Today, I would like to focus a little further on the power of thought and how with the Sad Sangat, we can move through the negativity of the illusion of Maya towards our higher consciousness. If we examine every single faith tradition, Sangatji, they've all said something very powerful, very significant in terms of the power of thought. Firstly, if we examine the Gurbani, the Guru Granth Sahib, it says, Jaise seva taisa hoye. As we become, as we serve, so do we become. Meaning, as we think, do we become. The Vedas, the ancient Hindu texts, tell us, Yad pavam tat pavati. You become what you think. If we ask Buddha, they also say, as we think, so we become. If we examine the words of the Gita, Ya mate sa gatapavat. One becomes what he thinks. And a similar message in the Old Testament, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Then the famous quote from the New Testament, for whatever a man is sowing, this he will also reap. Lastly, let's examine the words of Rumi. Rumi says, let go of that thought and bring it not into your heart. For you are naked and thought is an icy wind. You think in order to escape from torment, but your thinking is torment's fountainhead. And then Confucius, the superior man thinks of virtue, the small man thinks of comfort. The superior man thinks of the sanctions of law, the small man thinks of favors which he may receive. Let us now turn our attention to a spiritual story known as a Sakhi of a man called Ajamal. And the example of Ajamal is given multiple times in the Guru Granth Sahib, in the Gurbani. In this Sakhi, we see the importance of the Sad Sangat, but also what happens when we turn our back on our true purpose. Ajamal belonged to a very devout family. His father was a recognized Pandit, which is a Hindu priest or scholar. And this Pandit, his father, would offer much guidance to absolutely everyone. It was very revered. And in this, Ajamal became very versed in the Holy Scriptures. But as is the way with many, the application of this wisdom was missing from his life. He knew the Scriptures, but that application was missing. His father asked nothing of Ajamal, but gave Ajamal this one lesson. Son, when you come to visit me, when you come to see me, walk around the city, do not come through it. The reason for this is because his father knew that the traps of the city, the bright lights, the gambling dens, the brothels of the city will entrap any a man. However, despite these instructions, as it would happen, Ajamal found himself walking through the city, and in doing so, he found himself in the arms of a prostitute. And from here, his lust intensified, his greed intensified, his anger intensified, his attachments and his needs to this world became completely unbearable. Despite everything that he knew, this once rich man from a good house could now hardly make ends meet. He could hardly provide for his family. And Ajamal spent his life like this in poverty, in hardship. One day, as it would happen, a saint passed by Ajamal's house. It was raining heavily, and the saint was looking for some shelter. Ajamal, by some great fortune, had the opportunity now to serve this saint. He attended to his needs with what little he had. And as the saint's way, their job is to give and to give and to give. And he had the compassion to want to give to Ajamal. But as he pierced through Ajamal's life, he saw how circumstance had led Ajamal away from the Sangat. And now all that was waiting for him were the pains of death, further entrapment and suffering, further births and rebirths, where he's reliving all of these misconceptions. He saw how Ajamal was attached to his family and was working all hours to try and make ends meet with no avail. So the saint thought, this is a person who's not going to take kindly to any instruction to meditate, to serve. So instead, the saint blessed Ajamal with a child. And he said to Ajamal that you'll be blessed with a son. And once that son is born, you're to name him Narayan. Now, Narayan is a name of the divine. By remembering the name Narayan, Ajamal's mantra recitation started. It brought Ajamal back into the Shabad and to connect with the divine. And as it was, on Ajamal's last breaths, although he was attached to his son, he was calling out for Narayan, continually chanting the name Narayan, 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 Narayan. In that instance, in those last moments, the hideous messages of death dropped Ajamal, and instead the angels merged Ajamal with Narayan. They merged Ajamal with the divine. As the Gurbani tells us, Ajamal papi jagajane nimukamahe nisatara. Ajamal was known throughout the world as being the sinner of sinners. Papi jagajane. But nimukamahe nisatara, but was redeemed in an instant. This is the power of the Shabad. Ek palak, even 1 second in the company of the Sad Sangat as we started. Kod Vaikuntha is equivalent to countless paradises, because 1 second in the Sangat could be what we need to redeem ourselves, if we are able to drop our ego in that one instance. Wherever the name of the divine resides, and where that person comes under the protection of a preordained master, the messengers of death cannot haunt you. As a more recent illustration, in Kenya, there was a spiritualist by the name of Baba Puran Singh. Now, Baba Puran Singh is probably one of the greatest of saints in this modern time. And they created a spiritual hub in Birmingham, UK. Before Baba Puran Singh was revealed as a true saint, they spent a lot of time in seva, in service, and in meditation. People knew them to be a very religious, very devout, generally a very nice man. They were warm to everyone. They never slandered anyone. And everybody felt really content in their presence. It was actually when another traveling saint, Baba Mani Singh, came to Africa and openly told the masses that they were living amongst a fully realized soul, that people started to recognize Babaji for who they were. Before they were known as a saint, they visited a dying man in hospital. And this man turned to Babaji and begged him not to leave his side. Babaji inquired and asked, why are you asking me to stay? And this old and frail man, frightened man, turned to Puran Singh, said, Babaji, Puran Singh Ji, I see the most scariest of creatures surrounding my body. They're all reaching out to catch me, and they're coming ever closer. But when you're here, they run quickly away, they hide away. As Bhai Bahadur Singh Ji has told us many times, we constantly remember and remember and remember in order to focus our last breaths. Our meditation, our service, our manifestations, all of our worship is just to establish that one connection. Whatever we have in our last intentions will become our identity, that will become our destiny. Many seekers, despite having a life full of service, if they fall to the temptation of a craving in their last breaths, whatever they're craving for will become their reality. This is why we mainly spend our time practicing manifestation prayers. This is why many people have advocated such things, because they realize the immense power in these manifestations, in the creative thought. So much so that many are selling this as a concept. But there's a danger with a spiritual practice that without a spiritual guide, or without being grounded in your tradition, any of these manifestations that we think we make on a daily basis will only produce short-term gains. Anything less than manifesting the divine will only leave us wanting. As Baba Jaswant Singh Ji said, we should only beg for the Guru from the Guru, meaning we should manifest the divine in our life, so we always remain in the presence of the divine. We should ask and beg for the Guru from the Guru. The greatest of all requests, the greatest of all prayers is for the remembrance of the divine. Mangana Manganika. Har jas gurde Mangana, the Gurbani says. The highest of all prayers, requests, is that request to constantly sing the divine's praises. Turning back to the Sakhi, what happened to Ajamal was born from the Sangat. It was a blessing. But more deeply than this, it shows the importance of our thoughts, Sangatji, and how our thoughts create our reality. Whatever we think becomes our reality. And as the divine continually creates, we also continually create. No thought goes missing. We may forget, but Maya inherently doesn't. It's being recorded somewhere in our soul. So any thought of negativity will manifest in our reality, whether it's here or whether it's later on. And this is the cause of suffering. When we try to identify why do we suffer because of all these negative thoughts, all of these conceptions that we imprint on our heart. And this is why the spiritualists have told us to be ever watchful of your heart, to guard your heart, to not allow any of these frustrations affect your mind and your thinking. Because none of these experiences that we have come by any coincidence. And this is especially true at death. Whatever we bring into our contemplation becomes our Sangatji. So it goes without saying that if our thoughts are based on lust and greed at this time, our soul will search for those experiences to fulfill its need. But where we remember the divine, where we focus becomes the divine, we will see the divine's blessings appear in our lives. So how can we ensure that we make every single moment count, Sangatji? The scriptures, the Gurbani have told us, when they're actually narrating this Sakhi of Ajamal, they say, Ari Bhai, Gobind Naam Mata Bisara. Oh sister, do not forget the name of the divine, the Lord of the universe. Gobind Naam Mata Bisara. Simply continue to meditate, be in the presence of the divine until it becomes completely natural to you. The name of the divine, which is referred to as Naam, or the Shabad Mantar, as we've been referring to, is a gift granted by the divine. Naam is a continuous remembrance of the divine. And in that state of Naam, we continually live in their vibration, in their presence. We live in that state of thankfulness. We start to experience every single aspect of the divine. This is Naam. There's no difference between their name and the divine itself. They're one and the same thing. And when we receive this Naam, when we experience this experience of the divine, the mind has no further hunger, nor does it need anything else. It becomes completely satisfied, content in the love of the divine. What we don't realize that Naam is actually for us. It's not for the divine itself. The divine needs nothing from us. The Naam is for us. We've conditioned ourselves to think in a certain way over many different experiences and lifetimes. Naam, or our meditation, breaks through those thought waves. Even if for only a short period of time, those anxieties, those fears, those doubts, those worries, Naam cuts through that. It will take away these fears and doubts that of this distracting mind, and it will remove our negative thought patterns that we have. Those thoughts that are destructive, where we have those fears in our life, those anxieties, Sangat Ji, go back into your Shabad Mantra. It will cut away those fears, those anxieties. It will retrain this mind to focus on something else. This is the purpose of the Shabad Mantra, the purpose of focusing on the name of the divine, to completely change our thought pattern. As we go deeper into the Shabad, Sangat Ji, everything starts to vibrate the Shabad. Everything. Everything we start seeing in the physical world will start acting as a remembrance of the divine. You might be walking on the autumn leaves, and those leaves will sound like they're vibrating the Shabad itself. You will hear the birds chirping, and from here, it will be as if the Naam, the name of the divine, is vibrating through their song. I remember speaking to Bhai Sabji on the phone once, and they were saying they were hearing the raindrops on their windowsill, and in that they were focusing on their divine vibration. Even the raindrops, the sound of the raindrops will get you into that vibration. The engine is rotating and rotating, and this rotation will allow you to focus on the divine. Your footsteps, that ticking of a clock, all external sounds will become a vibration of the divine. For Saint Kabir, for Bhagat Kabir, the turning of his spinning wheel pulled him into the resonance of the divine. For Namdev Ji, the sound of the deer, the fish, the birds, jo bolat hai mrig meer pinkeru, so har bin japat hai nahi hor. The sound of the deer, the fish, the birds, all produce a divine resonance for him. The 10th Master, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they're walking through the jungle, and they're crushing the leaves, and they're hearing Neta Neta Vanatrina Kahata. Neta Neta meaning you're beyond this, you're beyond this, you're beyond this, and they're hearing this from the crushing of the leaves. In our daily prayer as Sikhs, in the Rairas, we sing these lines. Vadde mere sahiba, gair gambira, guni gahira, koi na jane tera keta kevat chira. The divine is beyond limits of this world. They are completely limitless. Who knows your extent? This, everything becomes the divine's resonance. Just as Guru Nanak Dev Ji says in Japji Sahib, Kehte keh keh ut jaye, ete kite hor kare, ta aak na sakhe kai ke. No one can explain your greatness. No one can find the end of the divine. No one has found the end of the divine. Guru Nanak Dev Ji themselves are sitting in the Modi Khana. Outwardly, they look like they're focusing on a business transaction. But when they're coming to the number 13, they're lost in the vibration of the divine, because 13 in Punjabi means tera, tera means yours. So lost in the vibration of tera, yours, 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 they were lost in the vibration of the mantra. You'll see a light of a candle, and that will focus and become an inner light within you, bright, shining bright within you. When our life comes in tune, then everything in this world becomes an instrument of the divine Sangat. You're going along your daily routine. You'll see some words, you will hear something, a sign on a billboard, and it will automatically transport you into the presence of the divine, into the Shabad. Something really casual will start to make you remember the divine. And when these strings of these life are tuned in the love of the divine, then whatever is happening in the outside world, whatever's happening on the outside will reflect your inner peace. Jaisi mansa, taisi dasha. When sleeping, you're remembering the divine. When you're getting ready for work, you're remembering the divine. Before you start any action, any task, you're remembering the divine. Before you're starting your car, you're remembering the divine. Before you're turning your PC on, you're remembering the divine. Before drilling that first hole, you're remembering the divine. You're living completely in their remembrance, in their resonance. This will only become natural to us, Sangatji, when we center our life around the divine. This will only happen when we accept that the divine is around us, within us, in each and every interaction that we have and we encounter. Now, there are those that will hear the Sakya Vajamal, and they will think this liberation, this paradise is something that we can trick ourselves. We could trick the divine in giving to us. We feel that if we do certain actions, certain fasts, certain rituals, as long as we've done that, that we've got a golden ticket. Or we can cheat the system somehow. There are those that will take this message that they will feel that you could do whatever you like in life as long as you're remembering the divine in your dying moments. Sangatji, quite simply, if we haven't had a life of service, we're not going to remember that in our dying moments. In the time of Bhagat Kabir, Kabir lived in a city called Benares. Now, Benares is known as the city of death even because in their faith, many have taken the interpretation to mean that if they die in Benares, this holy city, they automatically are granted liberation. So you see many people flocking to Benares to die, simply just physically die in Benares to achieve that salvation. But quite near to Benares is another land called Magar. And according to mythology, Magar was actually cursed by the Lord Shiva. And it was cursed that whoever dies in Magar will be thrown into the despairs of hell. So what does Kabir do? He knows his death is approaching. So as his death is approaching, he picks up everything. He moves from Benares and goes to move to Magar, to discard his body in Magar. And when he was questioned on this, Kabir just simply said, when you're already in the divine, when your heart rests in the divine, where does it matter where you're sitting and where you die? Because you're completely in their presence. The thing is, if we've lived a life of service, if we've lived a life of meditation, that becomes our nature. That becomes every single aspect of who we are. But if not, then our pains, our troubles, our unfulfilled desires, our constant fevers, these will continuously plague us. Unless we make that repeated decision to choose the divine each and every moment. Moving to our take-home message, Sangatji. We have immense creative power. As Baba Jaswant Singh Ji will say to us, with grapes we can either make glucose or alcohol. In the same way, with our thoughts, we can even manifest negativity or positivity. Let us guard our heart. Let us evaluate how we're effectively using this inherent power that we have within us. First law of spirituality that we're reminded on: speak less. Guard your words. Be slow in deliberation, but quick in action. Every word we speak is a seed, which sooner or later will grow and manifest. Whether you say something and the result comes in minutes, or in days, or years, or lifetimes, something you've said in this life, we will certainly experience in a future life, for good or for the worse. Then find that true Sangat, this simple advice. And in that Sangat, we will actively bring these virtues into our life. We will have that relentless pursuit of positivity, of warmth, compassion, forgiveness, and love. And in this, we'll find the virtues of the divine on this divine path. I'll finish Sangat Ji with these beautiful lines of the Gurbani that explain this. Sab jaye milo Satgur ko meri jindudiye, jo har har naam dridave Ram. Har japdya khin til na kijei meri jindudiye, mat ke jape sav aave ke na aave Ram. Everyone, the Guru is saying, go and meet the true Guru. Because this true Guru is going to implant the name of the divine in your heart. And when meditating on this name, do not hesitate for an instant. Because who knows when that breath is going to come again. Treat each and every moment, that last breath as your last. As the Gurbani has told us, Pele Maran Kabul. The first point of spirituality is to accept death as imminent. Pele Maran Kabul. And once we live in this presence of death, that's when we truly start to live. That's when we truly start to focus our attentions, focus on what words, what thoughts we're bringing into our lives, what we're creating with our thoughts and our manifestations. So stay in good Sangat, meditate on the divine, treat each and every moment as a divine moment. And with these words, Sangat Ji, I beg for your forgiveness. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.